Hey there, Aubrey. How's everything?
I'm great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. You're getting into IELTS today. Aubrey, in general, are you good with time management? I know this comes up on IELTS, but in life, would you say that you're good with time management?
Usually, yes. Every now and then, time will sort of get away from me. There's a fun expression where you say you lose track of time.
Yeah.
It gets away from you,
Yep.
almost like we're personifying it. We're like giving it
Yeah,
human
legs.
qualities, like it can escape.
You can run away, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you good with time management?
Yeah, I think I'm usually pretty good about it, unless I'm doing a task for the first time and I don't know how long it's going to take. And then it's really hard. But when we get to IELTS, we're not doing reading for the first time because we've practiced our strategies many times, right?
That's a good point, right? If you haven't taken IELTS before and you go on test day and you haven't been practicing and you're not that aware of the time that it's going to take, it could be really difficult to finish the exam on time. So you definitely need to be practicing with practice exams, using strategies, and very familiar with the time it's going to take. So today's tips are going to be really valuable.
Yeah, and we got today's question from Navjot, who asked this during one of our webinars. And they said, I have a big problem in the reading module, time management, and confusion in the majority of the questions. And honestly, this is the biggest challenge when it comes to reading, isn't it, Aubrey?
Absolutely, right? Time management is more important on the reading exam than just reading comprehension.
Yeah.
Because even native English speakers will get low scores on the reading exam when they're trying to just read entire passages, get the answers. We've seen them get low scores if they don't use strategies.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So that's the proof right there that managing time is basically the number one skill you're going to learn when it comes to your IELTS preparation, which is probably going to be a course. Most people are going to need a course that will teach them those strategies. But today we have a couple of hints, a couple of tips to get into.
Exactly. Right? Tips that our students have used many of them have gotten a 9 on IELTS reading. So if you're looking for an overall 7, to get a 9 on the reading exam can really pull up your overall score. And really the key is just using strategies for each question type, right? That was part of this question. Like, I'm getting confused. You need strategies for each question type, but also you need time management. So we're going to go into 3 really important tips today to help you manage the time you have to take that reading exam.
Exactly. But first, take a minute and hit the follow button on IELTS Energy so you don't miss a single episode of the show. We'll drop right into your listening queue. That is the place to be to have this show in your library. Okay? Good.
Yes. All right. So let's dive in with tip number 1 here, which is don't read entire passages.
Why,
right?
Aubrey? I mean, you would think that you would read it. Don't you need to read a reading test? I mean,
It does seem really counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
This is especially important for the academic IELTS exam because the reading passages will often be so much longer with academic vocabulary. Sometimes on the general exam, it will be like a brochure or something that's shorter that you likely will be able to read every word as you're looking for these answers. But if it's a long passage, the last thing you should do is just start reading the whole passage.
So then,
instead, you're going to use strategies to find the answers in that text.
yeah, I was just going to ask you, what do we do instead, right? What do we do instead? We know what question type we're answering, and then we have a strategy for each question type, right, Aubrey?
Exactly. Yes. And for most of these, you're going to be identifying keywords, then skimming, scanning, and then once you find those keywords, that's when you read for detail. That's where the answer will be, right? So stay to the end. We are going to share details for one of the most difficult question types on the IELTS reading exam and and what strategies you would need to use for that question type.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. But next we have a really hot tip, another hot tip. What's number 2?
Number 2 is you should spend about 1 minute per question. So if a question is taking you longer than a minute, you need to leave it, mark it for review later, and come back. One of the biggest mistakes students make is spending way too much time on a question they find difficult, and then suddenly 20 minutes have passed and you just won't have time to find the rest of these answers.
Oh my gosh, that could sink your entire exam, right? So move on to the questions because you'll probably know the rest of them. And then instead, maybe you miss one or maybe you come back to it later and figure it out, right? That's so much better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spending too long on one question can make you feel that panic of like, oh, now my, I had a plan. I was planning on how much time to spend on each question. It can really throw you off. So you must be disciplined and move on to the next question if you get stumped. This can happen. If you have time, you can come back and review it after, but you don't want to have to complete like 10 or 15 questions feeling panicky. That would be a big mistake.
And again, discipline comes from experience and knowledge. So by the time we enter the test, this is not the first time. We've done many reading practice tests before, right? That's ideal so that we can be disciplined. We understand how to work this test like it's a system, not like you're a victim of the test and you're just passively receiving the test. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. When you have taken a lot of practice tests and done this, moved on from a question that was too difficult, that will be your instinct. Whereas if you haven't, your instinct will be to dig in and spend more time I know this answer is here somewhere, and keep looking. So you want your instinct to be feeling what it is to spend about a minute on a question. And if you haven't found the answer, move on and come back after.
All right. That's a great tip, Aubrey. So 1 minute per question. What's tip number 3?
Yeah, so it's really important. Tip number 3 is to know ahead of time which answers will be found in order. So for some question types, the answers are in order in the text. For others, they won't be. And the steps to take for these different questions will be different, right? For questions that are in order, if you have started at the beginning and you found an answer, you don't start at the beginning again. You start where you found that answer and then scan for keywords from there. So if you don't realize which questions are in order, you could duplicate effort, spend a lot of time looking through text that isn't going to have any of those answers.
Oh my gosh, so good. Sometimes we're going to need to make predictions and identify keywords, Aubrey. Anything else we need to know here about this particular strategy?
Yeah, we are going to share details about a 2-part series that we published with details about all question types and which are in order.
Okay.
So we published this several months ago, and it was we went through all of the question types you could find on IELTS Reading and which are in order and which are not. This is really important to know. So we want to share that series if you missed it. So stay to the end and we'll give you those episode numbers to find.
All right, Aubrey, we are back from break. Do we have any examples that we need to know about here?
Yes. So one example of a question type where answers are not found in order is matching headings to paragraphs. This is one of the most difficult IELTS reading questions. It's very challenging. So we're going to go through and give you the steps to do this. One thing that helps you with this type of question is to recognize that headings are main ideas. And where are main ideas found? Usually in paragraphs, Lindsay.
Main ideas are usually found, I would think, at the beginning, no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're usually in that first sentence, maybe the first 2 lines. If they're not in the beginning, they're almost always at the end, sort of in a summary of that paragraph. So this is really going to help you save time for this question type. So let's go over the 3 steps we would use when we hit a matching headings to paragraphs question.
Yeah. And in our course, we go into a much more depth. We show you exactly how this applies to every question type and how to practice it and use it and get feedback from a teacher, right? Love it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's the step 1?
All right. So step 1 is to skim the passage. You're going to spend just 1 minute skimming the passage, reading just the very beginning and end of each paragraph. And you want to practice this skill so you can go do it very quickly, regardless of the passage length.
Okay. So we're skimming newspapers, magazines, pages of books to practice.
Exactly, right? And you just need to be able to do that in a minute. And this is going to give you an idea of what type of information is found where, which is especially important for matching headings to paragraphs. It's going to give you like, ooh, okay, when I see this heading, I have an idea based on my skimming of the passage where this will be found.
All right. What is step 2?
All right, so step 2, you're now going to identify keywords. So after you skim the passage, you go to the headings, you underline keywords in the headings. These are names, numbers, nouns that are important that will definitely be in the passage.
Love it. Anything else we need to know about that strategy? That's step 2?
Yeah, so once you have identified keywords, then you're going to go to the first paragraph of the passage and you're going to read starting looking for those keywords. And what's interesting here is it's rarely the actual word from the heading, right? It's often a synonym, a parallel expression. So you're not scanning looking for exact words. Sometimes it will be the exact words, but you're often looking for synonyms and paraphrases of those keywords.
Yeah. What strikes me here as we're going through these steps is this is us working the test. Like I said earlier, this is us applying our strategies in a very systematic way in the test. It's not the test working us. You know what I mean? It's not the test overwhelming us, right? We're taking a very active approach here, Aubrey.
Exactly. Yes, right? You want to feel as prepared as you can, so you go in confident, right?
Yes. What's step 3?
All right. So step 3 is matching those keywords, right? You're scanning, you're looking for those synonyms, parallel expressions. And then once you match keywords, that is when you read in detail. You're never going to read an entire passage in detail. You just don't have time. But once you find those keywords, then you read that sentence, maybe the following sentence in detail. If the answer isn't there, keep scanning, because often those keywords will exist later in the passage. Find them, read in detail, and that's how you'll find your answers.
And if we see words that mean the same thing as the headings?
Sorry, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You keep going, Aubrey. Tell us more. Tell us more about this strategy. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, this is where if you have time remaining after completing all the questions, then you'll come back to those questions you flagged for review.
Love it.
So this is especially important for matching headings to paragraphs because every now and then one will be in the middle of a paragraph.
Yes.
You do not want to spend time reading that entire paragraph. This is what you're referring to, Lindsay, right?
Yes.
So then sometimes the answers aren't, like the main idea isn't always in the very beginning or the very end.
Yes.
In that case, it's probably going to take you longer than a minute to find it. Flag that for later, answer all of the other questions you can, and then come back, and you may need to look at that entire paragraph in detail to find that answer.
So a very clear strategy. We know exactly what our approach is as we walk into the reading test, right, Aubrey?
Exactly, right? Then you'll be confident. You'll know the different strategies for each question type, and you'll know about how long that feels to spend about a minute on a question because you've practiced those strategies and you know what to do.
Oh my gosh, so good. Aubrey, are there any other episodes our listeners should check out as we finish up today?
Yeah, so we want to share that series where we shared which questions are in order. So episode 1378 was part 1 of the series, which IELTS reading answers are in order. And then part 2 was the very next episode, 1379, which IELTS reading answers are not in order. So be sure to go back, listen to that series, take notes so that you have details about which questions are found in order and which are not.
I love it. So good. And where should we leave our listeners? Don't be intimidated by the reading test, right?
Absolutely. And timing really is everything. Time management can make or break your score. So use today's tips, spend 1 minute on each question, and use that discipline, like we were saying, practice that discipline of being able to move on and come back to difficult questions later.
Don't waste time or money. I mean, if you
Right.
bomb the reading test, right, that's going to sink your whole score, and then you'll have to pay again to take the test again. So let's take some time and learn the strategies that we need before we go into the exam. Okay?
Exactly. Yes. And we shared specific strategies here for matching headings to paragraphs, but there are so many question types on the IELTS reading exam, different strategies for each one. So if you want our system of strategies, which has given so many students the scores they need on IELTS, you can find it at allearsenglish.com/keys, KEYS.
I love it. So good, Aubrey. We'll see you back here next time. You have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.